Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast where a behavioral scientist examines what it's like to live a humorous life. Glimpse into the lives of the funniest people in entertainment, business, and science as your host, Dr. Peter McHugh, explores their habits, motivations, and secrets to success. Get ready to fire up your brain and your funny bone. Now, here's your host.
Welcome to I'm Not Joking, the podcast that looks at the lives of funny people. I'm Peter McHugh. Today's guest is Stephanie McHugh. Stephanie is a comedian, speaker, voiceover artist, and humor coach. She's been part of the Denver comedy scene for over 16 years, though she is in LA right at the moment. She was on Nick at Night's TV show, America's Funniest Mom, and the Steve and Stephanie Morning Show on Cool, with a K, 105. Stephanie is a co-founder of the Mental Pause comedy show and the Twilight Moan podcast, which I know we'll be talking about. Stephanie also coaches speakers and entrepreneurs on how they can add comedy to their presentations. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much for having me in LA.
Yes, welcome to La La Land. What brings you to Los Angeles?
One of my best friends lives down in Carlsbad, and it's her birthday this week. So I tried to get some things lined up.
You had a gig last night, no?
I have a gig tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
Yeah, for a women's entrepreneurs group.
Ah,
do
fun.
some comedy. Yeah. Pitch a little humor coaching too.
Indeed, as you should. So if you weren't working as a humor coach, a voiceover artist, a speaker, or a comedian.
Right.
I guess you're a mom also.
I am a mom also.
What would you be doing?
This is what...
I mean, you haven't left much left. There's not much left over.
There's just
after
two
all
things
those things.
after all of that. I have recently started performing comedy on the cruise ships.
Okay.
So I went to Alaska a couple times and we saw some whales.
Okay.
And I know this is really random, but if I'm not doing this, I might as well do something I like. We saw some killer whales. So I would want to be like a kayaking guide for whale watching.
Okay. That's a first.
That's the first thing I would, if comedy went away.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's first. I mean, I've done close to 80 of these. No one's come up with anything quite like that. So that's kudos to you. That's got to be a cool experience. I've never been to Alaska.
It was so pretty. In fact, one of my recent jokes that I have is living, as we both are from Colorado, I feel like it's beautiful there. And everyone said, oh my gosh, Alaska is so pretty. And I was like, really? Because I think we know what pretty is, but it was.
It's true.
Yeah. So I'm trying the joke. It's like the Brad Pitt of the States. And I think we're pretty. And it's not just because we're next to Kansas either. I think, legit, we're pretty. And it's hard to find like a celebrity that Alaska is like that would resonate with everyone.
So you say Colorado's like the Brad Pitt.
I say Alaska is like the Brad Pitt of the States. I feel like Alaska goes, we have mountains, but Colorado can go, we have mountains. Alaska says, we have bald eagles. In Colorado, we have bald eagles. And Alaska goes, we have whales. Shut up, Brad. Nobody wants to hear about your whales. We have prairie dogs. They have rabies. So if it's a younger crowd, like if I'm, let's say, for example, at Downtown Comedy Works, opening for someone, that may not resonate.
I could see that. You mean in terms of who the people you pick or in terms of the nature?
Brad Pitt seems to be the only person that I can think of who's a hot celebrity.
Oh, I have him because I was just talking about him yesterday.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But younger people would think, oh, that's like
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
He's younger.
That's true.
He's a beautiful man.
Right. And he was just,
He's just in Star is Born.
Yeah. Okay.
I was talking about him because he's one of those, the thing that actors do the best is look good on screen.
Yeah.
Obviously Brad Pitt, that's his most solid trait as an actor. I mean, he has true acting chops, but it's easier to be an actor in terms of being able to act than it is to look beautiful on screen.
Correct. Yeah,
Very few people in the world
agree.
sort of have that.
Yes.
And Brad has that.
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper, I think, has that. He doesn't lean into it as much because Bradley Cooper, what doesn't that guy do well?
Right.
Right? Like he can play music and he can, directing is really hard work.
I can't imagine doing that, especially when you're
in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
You're directing yourself most of the time in that movie.
Yeah. He's
one of the
co-stars. Yeah, that's right. So, okay, wait. So the sticking point for that joke, which I like, it's fun. You have a nice little rule of 3 in there.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So mountains, bald eagles, whales.
I feel like that's a little wordy. And I did say Alaska, Colorado. Sometimes I don't say Colorado 3 times. I just move 2 feet over in the stage.
Oh, yeah. So you do an act out.
A little bit. Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. But it works on the cruise ships too. And it works. Yeah. No, it works everywhere pretty much. I've done it everywhere.
Yeah. All you have to do is establish you're from Denver. Everybody knows Colorado's beautiful.
Exactly.
And so you don't have to ever been there to appreciate it.
Right.
That's fun.
And I do find too, like I literally was like, how much prettier, I really do think we're gorgeous. And I was pretty blown away with the inner passageway. So you're just, you're on this huge cruise ship and through Glacier Park, and it was stunning. And whales, they do have whales.
Yeah, that's true. I had this experience once in my 20s where I had the great privilege of going on this around the world trip for a semester at sea.
Oh, nice.
So I was working on this, and I had a pretty provincial life prior to that. I grew up in New Jersey, spent most of my life there. I'd moved to Santa Barbara, which is exciting for me because I'm actually going back to Santa Barbara tomorrow and visiting some old colleagues like 20 years, more than 20 years later.
Yeah.
I had been to Tijuana, a forgettable evening in Tijuana. And then I get on this ship and go around the world and see the world's wonders, basically see the good, the bad, and the ugly of the world.
Yeah.
But I went to Kyoto and saw the Great Wall and
by
pyramids
ship.
of Giza and so on by ship. Yes. And, a life-changing experience. But I remember getting to India and being in Madras, or some people call it Chennai. I don't know, or Chennai. I can't remember which one's in vogue now. Getting on a plane and going to Delhi and Agra. And Agra is the Taj Mahal.
Oh, okay. All right.
And I wasn't at the time, at that time in my life, I didn't journal, but I journaled on that trip. And I remember sort of approaching the Taj Mahal with a sense of skepticism.
Yeah.
I've just seen the Great Wall of China and I've seen, I've seen these things so far and I'm like, is this really going to be a big deal?
Right. Because you've seen pictures of it. You know what it looks like.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And then I got there and I go, oh, yeah.
It's
stunning.
Breathtaking. Yeah.
It is. It's something, the story behind it. And then it's one of those kind of perfect structures. Like, there's all this research on symmetry and beauty. So why is Brad Pitt and Bradley Cooper so beautiful? Well, part of the reason they are is they're symmetrical.
Right.
They're not like me who has a twisted up nose and lopsided ears and, all this kind of stuff. They're just perfectly symmetrical. And so you don't notice it. You just notice how pleasing it is to look at them.
Right.
And so the Taj Mahal is like, has that Brad Pitt. Yeah, exactly.
It's Brad Pitt of the wonders of the world.
It's also it's white and it's bright and it catches the sun depending on what time of day.
Really?
So we were there I think we were there for a sunrise. And so it kind of changes color and so on as the sort of morning goes on.
Plus it has curves, and I just know from the pictures, to me it seems like very white. I don't know what it's made out of specifically against the blue sky. It just seems, it does seem pretty.
Yeah. And the other nice thing about it is they really tamp down on the pollution in Agra because of the tourism.
Oh.
And so it's a much nicer place to visit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the big cities in India, at least especially at that time, probably still today, have pollution problems. Yeah, in that sense. Okay, so but you're not kayaking.
I'm not kayaking.
You're not a guide
yet. Right.
Yet. So you were recommended to me from a previous guest, Mark Masters.
Right.
So you know Mark from the Denver comedy scene.
I do, yes. So Nancy Norton,
who's also been a guest. Mm-hmm. She was like guest number 4 or 5. She was early.
I couldn't believe, I found you online when I started humor coaching and just sort of researching.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And then later I go, oh, I saw this TEDx talk and he's a CU professor. And she's like, oh yeah.
That's my pal.
And I'm like, what? I know I probably the comedian that I talk to the most, I would say. So it was just unusual. Someone that I talk to all the time knew you pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. Small circles.
Yeah. So I forgot where I was going. So the Twilight, she broke up with her boyfriend and gave me a call and said, hey, look, Wendy Curtis, who's also, I'm going to do a lot of name dropping.
Wendy was also on the pod.
Exactly. Yes. So Wendy Curtis, who owns Comedy Works.
Now you can email these folks. You're like, I'm part of a club.
Said, plus I've seen you really can get a following as a comedian if you get a podcast and get a following. It just packs the place out with people who really get you.
Yes.
So I opened for Fortune Feimster.
I know Fortune.
Yes. And it was wonderful. I could tell that they were there. I was emceeing. So when I said her name in the podcast, they all went crazy. You could just tell the energy of the room. And plus they loved comedy. So I thought, I want to find those people for myself. I'm getting all over the place. So
that's fine.
Nancy said, I think we should do a podcast. I just broke up with my boyfriend. Let's do something about dating in your 50s. And I said, okay, let's do it. And then she got back together with her boyfriend.
Temporarily.
Right. So,
I have a saying about those situations.
Yeah.
Which is, when you take the milk out of the refrigerator and you smell it and it's spoiled, you put it back in the refrigerator.
You're never going to drink it again, is what you're saying?
The next time you take it out, it's still going to be spoiled.
What if you like Lucky Charms cereal, though? That never goes bad. It can take some bad milk. That's a good analogy.
No offense to Nancy's current boyfriend, temporary boyfriend.
Oh, we call him Henry on the podcast. Okay. We keep it very,
I don't think
respect his privacy.
As an aside, I actually don't think that the fact that Nancy's dating someone affects the podcast in a profound way. So we
originally thought it would be the Twilight Moan, Adventures in Dating After 50, because a moan could mean kinky or a kink in your back.
Or
that could mean a lot of things.
But you make the lustful moan. I'll make the.
You don't know what it is. That could be hurt. Yeah. It's probably all of it. And really, when you think about it. So we like the word adventures because we want it. But really, if anyone's Googling, if you go SEO, no one's going to be going adventures when they're thinking about dating. So then we change it to relationships because Ryan, I'm going to give a shout out to Ryan, the doorman and sound guy at Comedy Works, was listening to it and said, what do you think about relationships? And so we like that.
So it's relationships after 50?
But now, So
this is perfect because I actually flagged this as a question.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted us to workshop some
I would love that.
Some subtitles.
Thank
for
you. So so then Nancy called me again. She goes, I think we need to have sex in the tag.
Okay.
And I can see, so the plan B or C would be.
You don't want plan B in there. You don't need it after 50. Sorry, that was a hack joke.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I was thinking of going back to the milk, but I'm like, no, that just reinforces your analogy. That the Twilight Moan, love and sex after 50.
Ooh.
So to me, I feel like if people are going to more likely to Google sex, that's going to get more people in the seats at comedy.
Are you talking about sex? Are you over-promising and under-delivering?
That's a good question. No, I think we talk about it. I don't think we're as graphic as some people might think.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
There's like a podcast called Guys We Fucked. You have to imagine.
I know. I went to go see them. That's our business model.
Oh, why don't you name it Old Guys We Fucked?
Nobody's going to want to listen to that. Yeah, no, we talk about it. I brought up, one situation.
Yes.
Yeah. But here's, okay,
delicately,
so I'm going to bring in a, I did. I just said, I was with a guy who I really liked. He came to my house. We went upstairs, had a great time. He asked me how I was doing. Like, he gave me a piggyback ride up the stairs. And then afterwards, I wasn't even in my head. Like, a lot of times I'm kind of in my head, but I had stuff to do the next day. So I'm like, I think I'm good if he leaves.
Okay.
And then I said, do you want me to make you a sandwich? which the fact that I had bread that wasn't moldy, I had just made a pot roast, which I don't think I have since then. Or before then, and I had a lettuce and tomato.
You're really trying to seduce this guy.
I did a great. I already, seduced him. But I had the sandwich, and I said, "Do you want mayo and mustard?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then I put the mustard on the lettuce, on the bread, and I worried for 2 days afterwards. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's the wrong place to put the mustard." He probably is so mad.
Wait, was this a to-go? Did you make this to-go?
I made it to go.
Did you put it in a little bag and handed it to him?
I was on a paper plate, which I do often have in my house. Paper plate, ready to go. And I worried for 2 days. I'm like, that was probably the worst sandwich ever because I put the mustard next to the bread and it's just going to get all mushy. And if you're worrying about that after that whole, I had fun. I'm sure he seemed. Yeah, we had fun.
Pleased. Yes, right.
I made him a sandwich and he left. So the fact that I had.
He's a man. You know if he had fun or not.
He had a good time.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
So I knew I had a little bit of anxiety.
Does that mean you liked him?
I did like him.
That's exactly what that means.
Yeah. So it's just in my head.
I see.
Yeah.
How'd you deal with that?
I kind of backed off.
I feel like that's the making of a bit.
It is. It's a little wordy. I can't figure it out. I talked about it on the podcast.
You know what? I'm not sure you need to let wordiness get in the way of your comedy. Have you been paying attention to what these comics are doing these days?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, right? You're right. Yeah. I did try it. So we talked about it. Nancy and I did on the podcast in my car before we had a show at the Women's Correctional Facility.
Oh, wow.
So I did try it there. That's probably not the best place to first try that joke. Yeah. But I just was able, I felt like earlier in my life, I would have worried about it and sort of been in it. But when it happened, I was able to kind of observe myself. And even though I still felt anxious, I'm like, maybe you should find another way you should just relax. Is that really something to worry about? And then how can you not have your brain go to the worst possible?
Stephanie, you have the successful person's disease.
You're
a little anxious.
Yeah, I do.
You do. You have it, obviously.
Yeah.
I know because I have a little of it,
I'm sure you do.
Not in a way that causes major. This has come up in the podcast lots of times. So listeners, forgive me, but it costs me a little sleep. But it leads me to lots of success and opportunities and so on, where you just are a little too vigilant. Trust me, he doesn't care where the mustard was.
Right.
The sandwich was probably gone.
Before he got to his car or before he got out of the parking lot.
He probably inhaled the sandwich.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's...
So that came up
talk about sex a little bit.
A little bit.
If you call that talking about sex.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting, I'm not suggesting that you make it anything more than PG-13.
Right.
The question is just what's the lane you want to be in?
Yeah, because see, that's the other thing is I am perfectly okay sort of having two completely separate lanes. But if you want to be corporate, like both Nancy and I would like to be in the corporate comedy lane and can do it. But if you have that there,
right,
then is that going to turn off some people?
And also just like what are your listeners into? Do they, how tittillating do they want it to be?
Right. That's true. Yeah.
All right. So let's get back to the subtitle for a moment.
Okay.
So it's it's the Twilight Moan.
The Twilight Moan podcast.
And then right now it's sex and dating after 50.
Right now, technically it's relationship adventures after 50 with thinking about love and sex after 50.
Mm-hmm.
So, Peter, tell us.
I don't know
what to do.
The issue is this is female focused.
Yeah.
Podcast. So I'm not the target market.
Yeah, and I'm
approaching 50, but I'm. But I have to assume that relationships, sex, dating after 50 is probably has to be different for men and women. I mean, I've heard some of Nancy's jokes, so I know it is.
Right. Yes.
And so what are some, let's just get into this for a little bit. Right. So I'm a bachelor.
Yeah.
And so I will someday be after, over 50.
Right.
And I hope still dating.
Having adventures.
What should I expect?
Getting a sandwich?
What should I expect from the ladies, from the ladies' side of things?
Oh, that's a good question. See, I hadn't really, and here's why I am doing it, because I think I kind of for a long time, my kids were at home and just trying to keep money coming in the door, comedy going, and the kids. There wasn't really enough to focus on dating. So I would say that it would kind of happen to me. Like someone would say,
you'd be living
my
life.
friend just broke up, he just went through a divorce and he was looking to find someone. And I said, I have a friend who's a comedian, So then they're like so enamored with you at first. And I really didn't, no one had ever said,
You're a shiny bauble.
Exactly.
Yes, that's right.
And when someone's going through divorce or something like that, the second you become human, they're like, I'm not in,
This is too much.
This is too much. I just went through something. This is too much. So that's kind of tough too. Yeah. And then, so now I'm making more of I am going out to find out what I want.
Yes. I've been on the app, so I know there's like a category of woman who is an empty nester now. The kids are away.
Right.
She's having a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah.
And wants to kind of have some more time for a little bit more focus on herself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And so, and sometimes can be quite explicit about that.
Like you're being very nice with your words. Are you trying to say, I feel like the word cougar, I do have a joke about that, is coming up.
No,
but that's more towards a younger man.
Yeah, I don't think I don't get this. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what her behavior is. I don't know what her words are, but the idea essentially is exactly what you were saying, is that I have dedicated so much of my life to these other human beings.
Yes.
That I've neglected a part of my life, and I'd like to see what that would be like.
Right. Yeah.
I always think to myself, oh, I hope you have low expectations.
That's what you're saying. I think you just have to be specific, I think. We did sign up. I did sign up for an app.
I mean, I think you have to.
You do, I think.
I mean, if you're doing this, there's actually a whole bunch of tax deductible things you could be doing to prepare for this podcast.
Like going, I did, sign up for an app.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
What app did you sign up for?
I did Fitness Singles.
I never even heard of it.
Really? Yeah. So Nancy first signed up for it. And then when we were talking about it, I'm like, I don't think I
can see that. You want a man who has a little more muscle mass.
I want...
It's a big problem with men.
When I go to my...
1% of your muscle mass every year after you turn... Is it 40?
I totally believe that.
And so you have to, I think it's probably, I don't know if it's the same for women, but as a man, I know this to be the case. And you have to really make sure you work on it. Like otherwise you turn into 80 and you're a frail, you're just like this frail old person.
That's another one of my jokes, actually, is I talk about my dad. It's ironic that my kids are out of the house, but now my dad needs help. He has Parkinson's.
Oh, that's terrible.
And a little bit of dementia.
Okay.
But I take him sometimes to his Parkinson's boxing class.
Oh, cool. At the corner.
There's one up in Fort Collins.
Okay.
Yeah.
The corner's a boxing gym in Boulder. That
really?
Has,
do they have? Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do. Yeah.
It's specifically for people who have Parkinson's, and he can bring a guest. So when I drive him, I take the class with him.
Oh, cool.
And at the end of the class, somebody came up to my dad and said, "Jim, thanks for bringing the eye candy to class today." I am the new young hot chick at the Parkinson's boxing class.
Good for you. Look, I think that's, there is something, I always like to say, I want to be the youngest, dumbest, and ugliest person in the room. But there are times where it's nice to be the oldest, smartest, best looking person in the room.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, it was kind of weird when it happened, actually. It's my favorite joke right now to say that joke. But when it happened, my dad's a big guy, and like 20 years or 30 years ago, no one would have ever come up to my dad and said, "Your daughter, is the eye candy." But I was like, I always have the Parkinson's boxing class. Yeah,
that's good.
Right.
Not a great dating pool, but good for the ego.
Well, everybody likes a sandwich, Peter.
Trust me, those guys don't give a crap where the mustard is.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, you could. Okay, so Fitness Singles, never heard of it.
Right.
Okay.
Because I like.
But isn't the problem with the dating apps? Everybody says they work out.
Yeah. Well, when I looked at it, I'm like, I don't think I can compete in that. And then I looked at some of the guys. So she still gets emails every day, even though she's not.
Who's she?
Nancy. Sorry. So we were doing the podcast. She goes, well, let's look at him. And I'm like, I can totally fit in with the fitness.
You're
singles.
Fit. I can tell you're fit.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So I haven't done anything with it yet, though. I need to do it.
You have a profile.
I have a profile.
Are you just accumulating
I got to get out there. I didn't put I think I did. So my like catchphrase or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to say this. It doesn't matter. Maple syrup is my favorite food group.
Okay.
That's from Elf.
Yeah.
So I like sweet things, and it's just a weird. What I've found is from hearing from my other friends, you just need something so that someone can start a conversation.
Yes.
With you. So, and I haven't done my description yet, though. That's what I need. So there's really nothing there.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot to workshop on this. We don't have much time.
That'd be great if we could do that. I'll just get my computer out and we'll get it all set up.
I don't have much experience with this. I do have a friend in Bold. No, she's in Denver, and she was on Bumble, or as I call it, the Bumble.
It sounds like that's the one most people are on.
I think Bumble is probably one of the more sort of female friendly sites, because even once you match, the woman
she has to make
the first move. Now she may make it poorly, but she has sort of a second chance
to the bread. Is that what you're saying?
I'd say most of the first moves are rather meager. I think someone could coach these ladies that all they really need to, if they want to stand out, is just put like a tiny bit of effort into that first move. Okay. Instead of just saying hi.
Can you be more specific on the first, like read his profile, I'm imagining, and refer to something?
Yeah, be a little cheeky, or just have a little fun with the opener.
Yeah.
Would be it's just puts you head and shoulders above the rest. In any case, I think so my friend, we sat down, I won't name her name, but she had, I was like, let me see. We were talking about how it was going, and she's like, and kind of these things are always mixed. She's wonderful and she's attractive and she's got a lot going on, and so she's appealing person to be on there.
Right.
And so, but the problem is always, no matter how appealing you are, finding a good match, someone you would like, and so on. And I think that the sort of interest, lifestyle, value stuff should, it's good if it matches up early.
Exactly.
Figure it out. And so she had this long list of interests. It's a very long list of interests. And I said, can't have that long list.
Too much, like 5?
3 things.
3.
I said, first of all, because she's a woman, most guys are just swiping based upon her pictures, and her pictures were fantastic. Like so then that's nothing nothing to fix there.
Right.
Let's just get down. I was like, okay, what's the most important thing? She said, mountain biking.
Oh.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So it's important her thing is, ideally he mountain bikes, but if he doesn't mountain bike, he needs to know that she does.
Yes.
Like she's not giving up mountain biking.
Yeah.
On the weekends for him. That will not happen.
Right.
Second one, live music.
Oh, uh-huh.
It's fascinating that she and I are such good friends because I'm interested in neither of these things. Any case. And then I was like, okay, well, the third one needs to be fun, right? We're going to use the rule of 3 here.
Because mountain biking and live music is
mountain
not
biking,
fun.
Live music. What's that third thing?
Oh, I see. Like a misdirect.
Exactly.
Okay, got it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we were out at dinner at happy hour, and I had a coaster, and I was like writing things down. And I go, okay, I got it. It's like, you're probably not going to want to do this, but I got it. And so I wrote down mountain biking, live music, and then the third thing, cockfighting.
That's perfect. That's good. Did she do it?
She did. To her credit, she did it. Yes.
You could get a couple dick pics just randomly, but you're going to have to weed through a couple of those to get to your prince,
and
right?
And so for her it worked, because she's impossible to offend.
Yeah.
She's just a very easygoing person, laughs easily, doesn't take life too seriously, and so it's why we're friends, it's why we're good friends kind of thing. And so to her credit, she gave it a whirl, and it was like the perfect conversation starter.
Yes.
And so,
because it sounds like that's what you need to do, right? Make it a safe place for him to volley something back.
Yeah, and if he's not able to use something like that, boy, he's a dud. So to her credit, she did play with it. And also, I think she's not going to be happy with a guy who's like super uptight, and who thinks that is in any ways like a real serious thing for some. You know what I mean? It's clearly a joke.
Narrows down the pool, like
in the right way.
Yeah,
in the right way.
Oh, good.
So,
good.
Have some fun with it.
All right.
That's
texting is the other thing. Like flirting, texting.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm going to have to.
I have another piece.
Thank you. Bring it.
We could go on for a long time with this stuff. And I don't remember where I picked this up from one of my female friends who picked it up from some dating guru or something like that. And it's texting is for fun. Flirtatious fun and making plans. And that's it. Okay. And then you just talk on the phone or meet in person. That's right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like
I think that's
good. I like that.
It keeps it keeps it moving forward.
So you just put a smiley face, winky face after those flirtatious meet at 7. Okay.
That versus the using text to get to know someone.
Yes.
How was your, like, when, if you use those rules, you never write the most boring thing that can ever be written in a text message.
Yeah.
How was your day?
That's true. I could see that. Yep. All right. Yeah. Oh, a lot to think about here.
This stuff's work. Well, luckily you're what's that?
Yeah. I used to have like sometimes for my username, can we workshop my username? I want to get a man. I
think that's.
I used to say long legs 321.
Okay.
And Kathleen Madigan, actually another comedian, when I opened first, she goes, that sounds like a stripper. You can't do that. But my birthday is March 21st.
Okay. I see.
So I did 3 Tough Mudders. So Nancy said, just do Tough Mudder 321.
Okay.
I'm not. No.
I don't think the name matters, to be honest.
All right. It's more the pictures. You just got to nail the pictures.
Yeah, the name, I guess, like, look, there are some truly bad, like having the word princess.
Yes. You don't like that?
Anywhere in your profile name, unless you want to attract a particular type of date.
I put entrepreneur, not stand-up comedian or entertainment.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
why?
I have a joke too about this. Like if you say you're a stand-up comic, that freaks guys out. Or they try to be funny. They're really aggressive.
Yeah, I can see it could be a little intimidating, or you can also. But it's a tough one because you are a stand-up. That's what you do with most of your time.
Exactly. No. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you put entertainer.
I'm in the entertainment business.
Entertainment professional.
Yeah.
I can see the puzzle. I can see the puzzle there.
I suppose I could test it each way. Like do it one. My friend who I'm seeing, who I came out here to visit for her birthday, she is an executive in the dental field. So for a while she had like VP, or I don't know, what the category is for upper management, basically.
Yes.
And then she had open to the possibilities for a catchphrase of love or something like that. And then she switched it from, hey, that squirrel can water ski, and said that she was in the dental industry, and she just got a ton of hits. She thought that sort of something more inspirational didn't really reach out for the catchphrase. Having something funny from Anchorman. That's from Anchorman. And
you guys are really into Will Ferrell.
I do. I really do like Will Ferrell. Yeah. So I suppose I could have it one way, entrepreneur, for a little while, and then switch it.
Switch to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. It's funny that these things might matter.
Yeah. It's subtle. But I think it does matter sometimes.
Yeah, no, I mean, clearly it does, because you're making decisions based on such limited information.
Yeah.
Though any information that you do provide gets overweighted in those, especially with the crush of options.
Yeah.
You can start to make decisions in an arbitrary kind of way. Yeah, I mean, look, I think that I know how frail the male ego can be. It's really fascinating.
Yeah.
And so
it's terrifying almost a little bit. Like you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, but yet again, that's the people pleaser in me. But
yeah, I think I don't know. I think this is how frail the male ego is. There was a study, I don't know, it's some Northern European country that has socialized medicine. I don't know if it's Belgium or Holland or Norway or something like that. So these researchers, these behavioral scientists got basically this big panel of data. So it's basically they have the data for the entire country. Anonymized, but
yes.
And one of the analyses they did was partners, husband and wives, their salaries, okay, and then the likelihood of a drug for erectile dysfunction.
Okay.
So a prescription.
Yep.
Right, because it's socialized medicine. So if you
want it, you just go get it.
You gotta go and get your blue pill or whatever kind of thing. A prescription for it. I'm sure it's much cheaper than in the United States. So they essentially plotted a a delta between the two salaries. So on the left side of the graph the delta was positive. The husband made way more money than the wife.
Yeah.
Or I should say, yeah. And then on the right side, the delta was negative. The wife made way more money than the man. And then just plotted the probability that the couple needed, right, this the blue steel. And what was really fascinating was it basically was flat, as long as the guy was making more money. And then when the wife made more money, there's a step function, an increased likelihood. And so it wasn't the amount, it was just that she makes more was the biggest predictor.
Well, I wonder in particular for couples, if the man doesn't make as much money, then something else is more important to that couple. And that may be the physicality of sex.
You could be, you could be a scientist with that kind of reasoning.
Oh, good.
Yeah, you're talking about a third variable.
Right.
Yeah, it could be a third variable.
Why did they get together in the first place? What was that attracted them, right?
Yeah, although the step function, I think, works against that a little bit because it suggests just if the woman makes $1 more a year, there seems to be not $1, but you know what I mean? Like a little bit of money more, there seems to be.
A shift?
A shift.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So
yes,
well, also, I think there's two things, especially over 50, right? So there's not only
right.
I think what happened, well, a few things happen, right, as men get older. One is so they may have a testosterone drop, and so that affects them,
right? Yeah.
So that affects them. But then also, I think that as a man, at some point, there's a moment of reckoning, which is, have you done the things that you set out to do? Have you lived the life that you imagined for yourself when you were a young man?
Kind of like I don't know if that's a midlife crisis, but just sort of a reevaluating of life. Like, have I done everything that I set out to do? And if I haven't, better do it.
Yeah, but I think the issue is just if you're not careful, life beats you down. And you just feel like.
That kind of happened to me with my dad. Like, my dad was 24 when I was born.
Okay.
So when his health is failing, I'm like, wow, I may only have 24 more years to get everything done that I want to do. Although I would say that I've always
you probably have a healthier lifestyle than your father did.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting is like our generation, I feel like our generation is on the leading edge of living healthy lives. I'm not a huge Joe Rogan podcast listener.
Yeah.
I was on his show, which is better than being a listener.
That's awesome.
It was a fun experience.
Yeah.
But I overheard him. He was talking about this idea. He's in his 50s, and I
think he's right around my age. I think he might be a year younger.
52 or 50, something like that. And the man's cut out of stone.
Yes.
And I know this because I was on his podcast, and at the end of the podcast, they take a picture. And it's a very funny picture because he's not a tall man, him and his producer. So I tower above them, but I put my arm on their shoulders, and I put my arm on Joe's shoulder. Like, and I'm a fit guy, and I'm an athlete and so on. But I put my arm on his shoulder, and it was like putting it on this table.
Just rock.
It was like rock solid.
Wow.
And he was saying that this is the first generation that there are 50-year-olds who look like him and feel like him. Or going back to the opening thing, Brad Pitt.
Right.
Brad Pitt is 55.
Yeah, something like that.
And in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, that the man does not look 55.
No, no.
He looks 40.
Right.
And so so my point, this is a long lead up to saying, who knows what's going to happen with at least a subset of people like you and me who figured out how to eat clean and exercise regularly and,
right.
And so on. And maybe the fact that, my parents passed young.
Oh,
so I always I guess I'm going to die young. I better get it all in.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not genetics as much as I think it is. Maybe it's just that they had a generally unhealthy kind of, you compare it to the days of people smoking all the time, drinking all the time. And
well, I have listened to some of your podcasts, and you said your mom was
69
and single, right? I mean, she raised
us a single mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that would be, I would
that's
think
stress.
Potentially take, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's hardcore stress. As a kid, you don't understand it.
Right.
And she worked shitty jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't she was a single mom and working at McKinsey.
Right. And, I got divorced, but thankfully the girl's dad, we split half and half and everything like that.
I think that's almost better than being married.
Yeah. It worked out. I mean, we still get along pretty well. So
this is me. This is my stand-up comedy. That's my premise.
I like it.
Is that actually being divorced with 50-50 custody is better. For a woman, it's better.
Oh, yeah, I could see that.
I think that for a woman, it's better.
Yeah. My parents lived apart for 19 years. So I grew up in Durango, Colorado, small, beautiful mountain town, but my mom did not like small towns. And then my dad got a job. He got his master's at CU and was in administration at a hospital. So then he moved to Scottsbluff, Nebraska, which has the hospital with a 180-mile radius. It was just basically farms. And that was it. And an Applebee's. And a good Chinese restaurant. And my mom was like, I do not want to move to another small town. So she stayed they lived in Fort Collins, even though my dad went to CU. My mom liked Fort Collins. So she would go up on the weekends for 19 years to see my dad.
All right.
And then
good for them.
They moved back together.
How'd that go?
Well, they moved back together.
Separate bedrooms.
And, she waited a year to retire because she said, we can't go from both working and separate to just staring at each other.
Yeah, I could see
full
that.
Time. Yeah, yeah. But it worked for them.
I think that we're living in a world where, first of all, I think there's more of that stuff than people sort of talk about, pay attention to.
Yeah.
It's just because it's just non-normative. People don't advertise it. I think that we're going to start seeing a lot more of this stuff as people start to really figure out this can't be a one-size-fits-all solution,
right? Of
the matrimony.
A typical, it can't have the typical look.
It doesn't. It's just that it doesn't have to,
right?
For it to be considered successful.
Yeah.
I think that's so good for them in terms of coordinating rather than compromising.
And it was tough on my dad because when he first, Scottsbluff was more of a, what do I want to say, traditional agricultural, what do you mean you're not divorced? Or, they think
that's exactly the thing.
Got something on the side, something's up, like, no, we're happy.
Yeah.
We just don't live together.
The irony in all of that, of course, are those sort of very kind of puritanical, provincial people who are like, so let me get this straight.
Right.
Your wife lives in Colorado and you live here and you see each other on the weekends. Those same people.
Yes.
The stuff they're doing,
exactly.
The stuff they're watching, the stuff that you know what I mean?
Right.
There's a reason that porn rates in Utah are so high.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, evidently. Pornhub's, I think, eager to point that out to the world.
Oh my gosh.
I think that's so American.
Yeah, that's true. Because I lived in Chicago for a little while. And yeah, you would definitely see more of the everything looks is right, but it's just a crazy messed up relationships, not authentic or good or healthy or anything about him. It just looked right on the outs from far away.
Yes.
So
I could see why, it would be easy to sort of criticize because it looks like everything's in line with this small town Nebraska. I just, knowing what I know about people and being
a behavioral scientist.
Suggests all right, I think if you started to kind of peel back the layers you're seeing. And, the thing is I'm not going to criticize anyone's proclivities.
Yeah.
It's just don't throw stones.
Exactly.
That's the...
Right. Yes.
That's the whole thing. So, I'm sure you and Nancy have fun with this podcast.
We do.
And it sounds like you're using it a little bit to sort of workshop some ideas.
Yeah. Yes.
That's kind of
like
fun.
Where we are in life, and then find our own community. My goal is, so that you shoot it out there and everybody's like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
Fun night out. Let's go out and watch the Twilight Mom podcast. And we have the Mental Pause show with Nora Lynch, also, who is married to another comedian, but she's on the cruise ships a lot. So sometimes she wouldn't be available to do the show.
I see.
So we tried it, and we tried mini speed dating and during the comedy show.
Okay.
And then follow up. But that's sort of logistically and audio. Actually, the audio was tough, like to try and do it on the podcast. So like we had a couple that won a date doing the mini speed dating. And then we did the podcast at Bar Louie where they won a chance to be together. But it just didn't.
The logistics of it.
The logistics of it was a little too, and the audio in a bar was.
It's tough to do.
Right. But that was kind of fun or something like where people would want to go out and have fun. And
yeah. So I like so I'll tell you this. I like everything that you're doing. And the reason that I like it is I think that, so first of all, we're awash with podcasts.
Yes.
But I think that your target audience is probably still a pretty growing user base.
And you think they would?
I think that's going to catch on.
Okay.
I think the issue is that there's a reason that podcasts are so popular. They're sort of surprisingly popular.
Yeah.
They're even even the ones that are sort of low editing, I'm not talking about How I Built This or Serial or whatever, where there's huge teams of people, but even kind of, I don't want to say low fidelity, but sort of moderate fidelity, largely unedited, but compelling content.
Yeah.
Can build a following. And I think the problem is that if you're in comedy, it's hard to build a following because that's where so much growth has been.
Yes.
Every comic seems to have a podcast because the overhead's so low.
That's true.
So, for example, this podcast has not grown a very big listenership. I never intended it to. You want to use it to build a platform by which to sell more tickets and connect more with fans
kind of have
and so
one
on.
Build onto the other. Yeah.
Yes. I think that, obviously the content's number one. So you guys figure out your voice and dynamics and topics and all the things that are going to make it worth listening to from beginning to end.
Yes.
And I think just talking to you and knowing Nancy, I don't think that's going to be a problem. It'll take some time to figure it out.
It was interesting. The first three felt effortless. And then the fourth one, I was a little tired too, but still I can do stand-up comedy tired,
Yeah, but that's rehearsed.
Exactly. Yeah. I felt like we were a little, I didn't know what to talk about. And I thought, I got to get on that single fit. I got to start doing something so we have something to talk about.
I got to feed the beast.
Yes.
Yeah. So I can see that. The thing that I think is, so I had Jesse David Fox. Yeah, he's a podcast. He's a journalist turned podcaster. He has a podcast called Good One.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about. So I love that.
Super
podcast.
Thoughtful guy.
Yeah.
I was surprised. about, and I don't remember if we talked about it offline or online, the amount of work he's done to build that podcast.
Really?
Yes. And I was like, oh, it's no surprise that I haven't organically gained listeners. I mean, anybody who's found this podcast knows me.
Yeah.
Or, probably just stumbled upon it in some way, shape, or form.
I found you, yeah.
But I've never really done the hard work to promote it.
Yeah,
and this is a friendly word of warning.
It's going to be
there's some. So this is a dirty little secret of the podcast world. There's a lot of horse trading, which is I promote your podcast, you promote mine. There's a lot of cross promotion that people engage in, for example. I don't do any of that. You know what I mean? I'm
because
so
you're moving
terrible.
on to another project though, too, a little bit, aren't you?
I'm working on a new book.
Okay.
That I'm actually in like deadline hell with right now. I was mildly regretting scheduling this today. But it's been very fun. I don't regret it now. I'm very happy I did it. And then I have a secret project.
Yeah. Which you can tell me right now.
I am not going to tell you right now. The world's not ready for it. Maybe once the mic is off.
All right. Okay.
But that's a podcast that I'm 90% sure I'm going to do it.
Okay.
I mean, I've already been taping. And so on. I'm launching it as a podcast and doing a very quiet launch.
I was just sort of sitting there thinking, did you just say, you didn't say what it was?
Nope.
Okay, good.
No.
All right. No, you didn't.
I did not.
But you just said, I'm doing a new podcast.
Yeah, the secret project is going to be a podcast.
Okay.
That's my first touch point with the idea.
All right.
I'm 90% sure I'm going to launch it. I put a lot of work into it and ideas and so on.
Yeah.
But the goal of that will be to see if I can grow it. And if it doesn't grow, I'm going to kill it.
You're going to kill it.
Yes.
You're going to kill it, like end it, not kill it. I'm going to nail it so hard. It's going to be the next Joe Rogan. Okay. I'm
going to put it out there. So this podcast is different. This podcast is for me, but that podcast will be for others. And if other people are not interested in, I'm not going to do it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how many episodes I'm going to give it. I'm not going to sure, but I'm not going to, if I can't grow it, it's done.
And are you going to, like, sometimes I sit there and think of just wording and SEO and how to get yourself found. Are you going to research that, or you're just going to kind of?
I mean, I'm working on the copy, and this is terrible for the audience. They're like, well, what the freaking hell is this about?
It's a good tease, though, right?
I'm working on the copy, knowing that the description that'll get dropped into iTunes, Stitcher, etc., has to be SEO optimized.
Yeah.
So you need the keywords
to get it right.
Exactly. I don't know how much it matters, but I know it matters enough that I should be thoughtful about doing that. Which
is why back to, I think, love and sex
for
the tag. But then if the corporate gigs make more money. That's kind of the other thing while this is going, if that makes sense.
Well, I guess the issue though is that, like, you're not going to be doing this for your corporate audience, but I see you're saying the perception of you as a clean comic.
Right.
You're a pretty clean comic.
I can be, yeah. A sexual innuendo. Like if I'm on, I'm clean. I mean, I do the cruise ships. There's little Joey who's 4 years old on the cruise ship. Yeah. So yes, but
my buddy Alonzo Bowden has like a thing. He's like, man, if you can do cruise ships, you better be able to make a joke about that doorknob. Like, it's not easy. It's not easy being up there doing a diverse room like that.
It is a wonderful. I like the exercise of it.
Yes, not easy.
Work. Though. It's a good workout.
I can see that.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah. I didn't mean to bring it back to that.
No. Look, we haven't arranged. I don't know. It's okay. So let me put on my marketing professor hat for a moment.
Okay.
I think that to make this decision, you need to do three things, excuse me.
Okay.
So the first one is take a look at the competition.
Yeah.
So who's out there doing something that feels like this? And then you have to make sure that you're differentiated
from them.
From them.
Okay.
Now, how might it be differentiated? Well, so I think the obvious thing is the comedy side of it.
Right.
So I wonder if you do something more like something, like Love and Laughs, or Sex, Love and Laughs after 50, or something like that suggests that it has a comedic element to it. But again, it should be the case that the descriptions of the two podcasts next to each other is going to draw some people to theirs and some people to yours, and so that leads into the second suggestion, which is, who is the ideal consumer of your podcast? What's she like? What does she do? What are her, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
What does she want to get out of it? Is she looking for like real advice? Is she looking for entertainment? Is she want someone to kind of commiserate with?
And create an avatar sort of our ideal.
Yeah. Or just just think a little bit through, like, what's the ideal profile of the person? Do you know that person? Like, so for my book project that I'm working on, I have sort of two profiles of the people who I want it to appeal. One is my friend Matt DeCausin. Oh. And so, like, when I think about it, it's like, is this something that Matt is going to get into? And is he going to like? Because I know what kind of books Matt buys, and I know how Matt thinks, and I know, that kind of a thing. And so that helps me. It helps guide my decisions.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's the second thing. And then the third one, it actually completely escapes me. what that third thing.
The first two are good.
The first two is
it gives me a lot to think
competition,
about.
Customer.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of small business owners, which is what you are, you're an entrepreneur.
I'm an entrepreneur.
As demonstrated by your
it's in fitness singles. That's what you know. Yeah.
I mean, it is. You are an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a lie.
It's not a lie.
I think it's not telling everything. It's leaving out a big part.
It is, yes. And it's fine to figure that out on the first date or in a phone call.
It definitely, I think, needs to be on the first date, though, right? I don't know how I could talk about what I do.
Yeah, it sooner than it's not. Look, the lie of the like fibs, it's so minor.
Yeah.
Of the fibbing that happens on the apps, it's about as benign a fib as you're going to get.
Good.
Right.
Exactly.
So I think that's fine. I wish I could remember the third thing. All right, let's wrap with a couple kind of sort of quicker things.
Perfect.
If we may. Okay, so I mean, I think this is sort of interesting where you are in your life. Like, it sounds like you've transitioned.
It is
right.
Fun. Right.
Yes. And so there's all this sort of opportunity. You're having a bit of a renaissance.
Right. Freedom.
Some freedom.
Like, it is interesting being a single mom and being pretty much okay, but really being stressed about money and sort of being in similar situations financially and not being stressed at all.
I can
It's almost
imagine.
like you're in your 20s, like, oh, figure it out, what, type of thing. Whereas when I had the kids to take to soccer practice or whatever, it was full
it's
on.
hard.
Yeah.
Work.
Yeah.
That's where the midlife crisis comes. So there's this sort of this U-shaped function about happiness and age.
Yeah.
Almost all of the bottom of the U is caused by raising children.
Right.
I mean, a wonderful,
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Meaningful, purposeful thing, but hard.
I almost would have had him sooner.
Get it out of the way.
Get it out of the way. Because I lived in downtown Chicago, super close to Zanies, wanted to do stand-up comedy and didn't do it. I didn't start until I had two young girls
How old
living
were you when
in
you
Denver.
Started?
I was 34 or 36.
That's exciting.
Somewhere around there.
But it's a tough, the ratio of male to female comics is so high for a variety of reasons, right? Lack of mentorship, lack of opportunities, and so on. But some of it is just the lifestyle.
Right.
Is
brutal on anyone.
But it's not very female friendly. Exactly. Especially it's not very family friendly.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a hard element. So what caused you to get on stage at age 34?
When I'm going to go all the way around. When I was 13, we moved from Indiana to Durango, Colorado. In the middle of 6th grade, I had a brace on my back for scoliosis.
Oh, yes. I have a note here about this.
Yes. When people say, why I could never get on stage, and one of my good friends, when I moved
You're like,
to
nothing
Durango,
is worse than being 6th grader with scoliosis.
Moving in the middle of 6th grade. Yeah.
I remember those scoliosis checks.
Yes. I had to run relays with the boys and the girls because I already had it. So the girls would go into the gym and get tested while the boys ran relay in gym. And then I had to stay out, or with the girls and the boys, I had to run relays nonstop. That's funny. Because I already had it. So I wore a brace.
You were already planning for fit singles at age 12.
12, exactly. It is like a plastic corset, and it had 4 Velcro straps to keep me growing straight up and down.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that still, do you know if that's how they still treat it?
I don't know. My dad was a physical therapist, but he's out of it. He said now sometime, and this was like 20 years ago, that they can stimulate the muscles. So like put tabs on one side of the back to strengthen them.
Interesting.
To keep it straight.
I'm sitting up like super straight right now.
I've been. In fact, I apologize if you can hear the chair squeaking because I'll sit down and then I'll stand up. So that was very awkward, in an awkward time for everyone. And my good friend I felt beautiful, feathered hair.
Oh, yes.
Hispanic.
It was the time.
I'm super tall, just gawky. And we would go over to her house to watch cartoons after school. And her dad would be there sometimes. And he was an alcoholic. And he once said to me, gosh, you're so pretty. And that just kind of horrified me, made it obviously
because it was
very
creepy
awkward.
or because
it was creepy.
I see.
And she turned up the TV and told him to be quiet. And he told her to shut up, bitch. And something shot out of my mouth and I made them both laugh. And that was the hardest room I've ever had to work. Like where it is, we have to and it changed the tone of the room though.
Yes.
It went from one way to the other. And shortly after that,
you had
you could control the room.
That had an effect on you.
Yes. Yeah. And that it made her happy, made me feel good. And that I could stop him from hurting her.
Being abusive. Yeah.
Yeah. And she got ovarian cancer and died when we were 16. And I met.
Oh my goodness.
I know. I didn't mean to keep that so short, but I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
For the sake of time. So as I would go visit her, of course, being a teenager, I would thought, well, nobody dies from cancer when they're a teenager.
Yeah, sure.
I know I'm not visiting her much, but it'll just be back to normal when she gets everything taken care of. Well, and she was mad at me the last time I saw her and I couldn't make her laugh. Of course, because she's dying.
In pain and she's struggling. Yes.
And I just kind of took on that guilt. Like, why did I live and, why did that happen to her? And when I had my kids, I felt for her mom. Her mom would say, you should come by the house after she had passed. And I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And after I had kids, I kind of really felt her death again. Like I wanted to let her mom know that someone still thought about her daughter.
Oh, that's sweet.
That
I'm getting all emotional.
So I wrote her and I always thought my friend's birthday was November 17th because my best friends were like 16th, 17th, and 18th. I'm like, there's something about people born in that. And I held on to the letter for a day and then I sent it and she wrote me right back and said, I got this on her birthday, which was November 4th. I had her birthday completely wrong and randomly sent it to her mother so that she got it on my friend's birthday. And she said, I feel like, so I kind of let go of the guilt. I kind of always had a little bit of guilt And so I let it go and go, why am I not doing things that I want to do? And I didn't specifically go to be a stand-up comedian. I think I took an improv class and an acting class, and being tall and acting, you know, I'm taller than a lot of the guys.
The leads, yeah.
You have to specifically, there's so many variables that have to be perfect, even in a play, and to have it work. Stand-up comedy, I loved listening to Steve Martin as a kid, you know, the albums. And so I just started doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah, you can adjust the mic stand so you don't sing.
You can talk about whatever you want, and you can control the room.
And yes, that's right. And, you know, I mean, stand-up comics are actors.
Yeah.
The average person doesn't recognize that enough, that, you know, it's rehearsed material. They just happen to be executing. They're both the writer and the director and the actor.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
It's like Bradley Cooper. There you go. Well done. Good callback. Yeah, I think that's really, I mean, you know, that's so nice of you to send that note.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad I'm glad I did that.
Yeah. So this is my hard hitting question for you.
Okay.
And then we'll end with a softball.
Oh, thanks.
So now that you have more freedom, you've done a good job raising your kids. I'm guessing, actually. I don't know.
Let's just say yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you did a good job.
It's my favorite thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when are you going to start letting go all these crushing expectations you have for yourself and the world has for you?
When am I going to let go?
So I'm going out on a limb.
Yeah.
I've only known you for 1 hour and 14 minutes. The feeling of guilt, the feeling of when are you going to let that stuff go?
That I think it's a constant.
Is this something that is an issue in your life?
Yeah.
I can tell it is.
It bugs me that
I can tell.
I know. Yeah. But that's very perceptive. It's good to.
I mean, first of all, it's not a crazy prediction, only because I think the average person struggles with that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the only thing better is if you were like Catholic or something like that.
Well, I feel like
I'm kidding about that. But the issue is, I like the thing is, I'm also a little affected because it might be the podcast that gets launched. I'm not sure when it'll get launched. If it's probably going to be after yours, unfortunately. But I interviewed Ari Shafir.
Oh,
you know Ari.
I don't know him personally, but I know his work. Yeah.
Ari is like this is a preview for a forthcoming podcast. Ari is like one of the freest people I've ever met.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
And it's inspiring.
Would you say that's unusual for comedians too?
No, I mean, I think that comedians often have the opportunity to be really free, but Ari is like next level freedom kind of a thing. And so it's striking to see, you know, to hear him talk and to see how he walks the talk and so on. And, you know, there's different forms of freedom.
Yes.
Right. So, you know, you have like financial freedom and so on, but that sort of freedom from guilt. I mean, really, what is guilt? You know, but either your own or other people's expectations inhibiting you from moving freely in the world, thinking the way you want to think, behaving the way that you want to behave. Right.
Well, I think going back to the sandwich story.
That's what kicked this all off.
So it was such a habit to go to that place, like making myself wrong.
It's automatic.
When nothing was even wrong, I found something to make myself wrong. And that I could observe, at least be in the moment worrying and observing myself. That's
your comedic talents coming out.
Yes. Yeah.
The
comics watching it
can have both of those things, where they can have the experience and then the meta of knowing that they're having the experience.
Oh, right. Yeah.
While most of us just have the experience
of the mustard. Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, I mean, you can imagine a whole other set of non-guilty cognitions. which is that guy's doubly lucky tonight.
Yes. Thank you. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I guess I would say that I'm getting better.
Okay, good.
And you gave me something to think about to make myself see. Then it happens. I'm like, and then I want to put pressure on myself to even be better at it.
I don't know.
It's a fact of letting go. It's a fact of letting go. I think instead of trying to be better at something. Just
I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm actually phrasing it wrong. Which is maybe the better way to phrase it is, what do you want to do with your guilt? So in the same way that I've recognized that like a little bit of anxiety, I'm not sure I could ever escape it.
Right.
So I should embrace it. I mean, obviously I want to minimize it. I don't want it to I wouldn't want it to become worse. And I certainly would rather sleep through the night. There's already enough things keep getting me up at night. Yeah. Having to pee, but in any case.
Wait till you're after 50.
Yeah. So maybe the better way to have, to ask that question is, what do you want to do with your guilt? That is, how might you use it? How might you
to have it be of service to others?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's just
I'm trying to think.
Given your profession also, like there does seem to be something freeing about giving fewer shits.
Absolutely.
As a comic.
Yes. And I would say right now I'm learning how to do that off stage a little bit more than on. Like on stage, I feel like I have it, but now I need to let go of it off stage to experience life and then have something to talk about, because that's just typically how I go.
I've been really profoundly influenced by my comedian friends and acquaintances. That is that I'm trying to be much more authentic. At the very least with people who I am close with.
Yes.
And I've learned that from comics more than my therapist.
Really?
And I've got a great therapist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like there is something.
Nancy makes me want to do that too, by the way.
Because she's like that.
She's very much like that.
Yeah.
And she's like that on stage too. Like, makes an intention to be in the moment. And authentic
and be willing to share the things that are scary.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm not interested in doing that stuff with strangers because it's just oversharing. But as a comic, it makes sense because it's entertaining.
Right.
It's compelling. But with the people I'm close with, I'm trying to do that stuff.
Yeah.
That more, you got to trust in your relationships.
Right.
You got to trust that these people love you. And so if they love you, they can handle and
that can be scary, right? Like you brought up front for male ego, for lack of a better word.
Look, I think that these men, I feel bad for these guys. In a world where we're rightfully focused on women's rights and trying to level the playing field and righting wrongs and Me Too and all of these kinds of things, we have to be very careful about turning men into the bad guys.
Yes.
Because it's not a good way to
where are we going to go from there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also ignores the fact that not every man is truly privileged, despite his maleness. And that there's a lot of men really struggling in the world. And these guys are less equipped than women at getting help, building support structures, and so on.
Right.
And I'll be honest, like, there's not a lot of good resources for them. It's why Rogan is so popular.
I totally could see that point. Yes,
right?
Exactly.
Rogan he's masculine. He's fearless. He walks the talk. He's successful. He's smart.
He's authentic and in the moment too. I feel.
Yes, that's
we'll
right.
Say whatever,
and so, he's become, I mean, I didn't see it coming when I was on his podcast years ago.
Yeah.
But there's a reason that he's become such an important man in America. I mean, I think that, he has, this is not a critique of him. I wish there were more men, some of which might be a little less libertarian and a little more progressive.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, you've got Peterson, Jordan Peterson way over there. You got Jordan, who's much, sort of more moderate in that sense. But, even a little more liberal or, that kind of a thing. And so a little more cooperative. So I make fun of them because I can, and they're easy to make fun of. But I also understand that you don't have to stop growing just because you're in your 50s. But boy, it's hard to start growing again if you haven't grown in 30 years.
Right.
Since
Right.
And you're not going to do it if you're hiding away your fears, your troubles.
And it's almost terrifying, I think, to make that first step.
Yes. It's, So, okay.
All right.
You can get back to me on the guilt stuff.
Okay, I will.
It's more of a rhetorical question.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Made me think.
All right. Last one. Here's your softball.
All right.
What are you reading, watching, or listening to? Just one or two things that's really good. It really stands out.
I just grabbed Mark Masters' book.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. It's a great read, like in the airport and things like that. Not good yet.
Yes.
He talks about...
What an optimist that guy is.
He's so good. Yeah. So it's about him starting comedy, and I think he's in his 40s, but, doing the open mics. And it's really interesting being on the other side, kind of, seeing how it is being new talent and all the open mics and things like that. And then the other show...
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Mark basically forced himself onto my podcast. You're not surprised.
I'm not surprised at all. He's great.
I don't have many people solicit being on the podcast. And I'm very happy I had him on the podcast. I mean, it was easy to say yes to him because he has an interesting story, as a kind of late addition to the world of comedy.
Right.
He is like a mechanic. You know what I mean? The guy is spreadsheets. He is just, he read the transcript of the podcast and corrected typographical errors in it.
Did he?
Yeah, the man is so thorough.
Yes.
It's really inspiring. I would not bet against him for that. In a world of people who might have like really good instincts and natural kind of comedy chops, there is the person who may be lower on that attribute, but just checks all of the boxes, call the cliches, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, following up on that stuff, I think I called the podcast episode Being a Professional with Mark Masters.
Yep.
Because I was struck.
I started listening to I was emailing back. He's like, listen to the podcast. I'm like, oh. So I clicked on it and it was years. I'm like, I haven't listened to you in so long. So I started listening.
That's nice.
Again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I told him, so he's helping us like the technical side of the podcast. I could see that. Because Nancy's busy. She's, we need to.
We're good.
Okay.
Don't feel bad about it. I just looked at
right.
I just looked at the clock, and she's like, "Don't worry, we'll wrap this up soon."
The radio part of me is like, just do a visual, like, slash your throat or something. I'll wrap it up. But he's so good at like, hey, Steph, we're at the end of the month. You should give me the MP3, so I can. And So I heard on your podcast that you were wrapping this up, and I'm like, oh, but my website's not. I'll get everything perfect, and then I'll reach out. I'll ask Nancy to do. And before he just sent the email to the two of us, I'm like, oh, so I don't have any. Yeah. So we're going. Right. So that was good.
Yeah.
I sometimes need that. I need that push.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah.
Mark, nice
Peter.
work.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going to listen to this. I'm sure it's going to pop up on your Google alerts.
Yeah, Google Analytics or whatever, that his book was mentioned.
Okay, so you finished his book. That's good.
I didn't finish it.
Oh, you're reading it.
I'm reading it.
And so that seems like a fun kind of, that's probably a little bit of, it probably makes you a little wistful for your early days of comedy.
You know what? I totally wish there were podcasts when I first started.
Oh, yeah.
Because having 2 young kids and like, you drive one way or drop them off, wait 20 minutes. And not being networking then, like Lori Callahan, rest her soul. I was having trouble getting on the road because guys wouldn't want to necessarily travel. And I get both sides of that. So she took me on the road. But if you could listen to podcasts, you could find out writing. I mean, writing is
so many resources.
Just so many. Read his book. It'd just be so much. There's a lot more people, though. That's the only other thing. There's just a ton of people in Denver doing comedy. So amazing, talented people.
It's great for the consumer.
Yes.
I was thinking about this. I had a guest on, Solange Castro, and she was talking about this. It's just a crush of bodies.
Yes.
Trying to do stand-up. And I was saying, that's good for the craft, because the more talent you have, the more likelihood you're going to find the next Eddie Murphy or Dave Chappelle or someone who's just so incredibly naturally talented in a way that you ought not to be. It's good for comedy. But if I was advising someone, I'm always like, escape the competition.
Yeah.
And this is a business where all the competition often looks alike, sounds alike, telling the same kind of jokes, especially.
That's where Mark, I think, has an edge too, because he just looks at he's so organized in writing, just the whole thing. So when that opportunity is there, he's ready to.
Yeah. You want me to I'm going to make a prediction about Mark.
Okay.
I know you're listening, Mark. I bet he ultimately find success doing something else comedy related, not stand up. And I'm not saying that because I don't think he's a funny stand up. I'm saying because I think there's more opportunities.
He's going to find that other place,
in some other part of the world. And now, of course, he will be better. Or when I say he, anyone, you know what I mean, who's doing stand up will be better at that other comedy thing because they've done the stand up. It's not, you can't skip that step. It's sort of a necessary, but not sufficient.
Right. Yep.
Step. Okay.
Yeah.
Your other thing. So you had Not Good Yet. And then what else?
I am obsessed lately with First We Feast. Have you heard of that YouTube channel?
No.
Sean Evans is the host.
Okay.
And he has celebrities on and they eat progressively hotter wings. So to me, that's like being authentic. Like you have no choice.
Yes. I bet you it reveals who the person really is.
Yes. And I'm amazed with the host too, because he does it every week. Like if you could interview Shia LaBeouf was my favorite one. And I thought too, he's in a movie. It's coming out.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Honey Boy. He's got 2.
I've seen the trailer. Yes.
And it's about his dad. So my kids watched the show that he was in when he was a kid.
Okay.
And I thought he just seemed like everyone else kind of takes a little bite. It seems most people.
He's a bit of a madman, I think.
He is.
Yes.
So I feel like he could take the physical pain because his dad put so much emotional trauma on him. He put a dab. He goes, let's do this. And he put an extra dab of hot sauce on each wing. And so the host did it with him. And he would just put it in his mouth and rip it off and throw it in and just keep talking.
Wow.
Tears were starting to come out of his eyes.
Sweating.
Yeah. So part of me is like, I would love to be on that show, but could I do it?
Yes.
I go to Costco and get the medium salsa and I'm mad because it's cheap, but it's medium. And I'm like, this is too spicy for me.
Yeah, you might struggle.
I think
you could train for that though. That's the thing about spice.
You can.
Yes, you can train for it.
Tums, like take a ton. or Pepto-Bismol or something. Coat your stomach before you start.
Is that true? I don't know anything about this stuff.
That's what
I may be the only person in America who doesn't watch food pornography.
Really? No?
I don't watch any of these shows. I don't know anything about them. I know a couple names.
Yeah.
But it is never-ending supply. It's striking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's fun. I will put these in the exhibits. So for the listener who wants to see them. Stephanie, this was great. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you so much for taking a break from your book.
Oh yeah,
and having me on.
It's important to do. I mean, this is feeding the book, so okay. It's not really a break, but I mean, it's a break from not editing. Mm-hmm. So, but yes, the book's called Shtick to Business.
Oh,
I've got cover designs happening.
Oh my!
We have a tentative launch date in February.
Wow.
Yes, it's all very real.
That's awesome.
I know. I said I was never going to do another book, and here I am. So we'll see. Well, thank you so much. This was great fun.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit petermcgraw.org for more information about our guest, show notes, and social media links. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share with others. Join Dr. Peter McGraw next week for another fun, fascinating conversation on I'm Not Joking.
Yo.